say, kids, what time is it?
The future is coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on.
And we're coming on to you today from a foggy beach in Aptosia land.
Yes, we've been enjoying clear skies at night as we've been looking
That's
at
true.
the comet.
It's been beautiful up to today.
But this
right?
morning,
oh my God.
nothing but gray skies.
And it's been a busy studio. We had Giselle in earlier. We recorded a little interview with her, which we will play a little
We
bit
will
later.
pepper it into the show.
Right. And we've got live in the studio, Gabrielle.
Hello,
Hey.
everyone in Santa Cruz and beyond.
Yes. Who's been hanging out in Santa Cruz for the last week and, going to give us a little update on some of her adventures. And we've got Bruce downstairs listening, and we had a house full of people for celebrating our Libra party. That's one of the reasons why Gab is here, was because we had a big Libra party.
And of course, Bobby was here for the Libra party.
That's right.
but
Bobby is
now
here.
he's
and
back
he's
across
back
the
across
peninsula.
not the aisle, but the peninsula, right? the landmass.
The landmass.
Hey, Bobby.
Hey, yeah. Wow, this last weekend, it was a wild blowout party at your place. Wow.
Wild.
Thank you.
It was really surprising was how we saw some people from our past that just showed up that I didn't plan on. It was pretty cool.
How did that come about? Who?
Dan Mapes, well, our friend Big M, I guess you might call him.
Bigham? Yeah.
Bigham texted.
Bigham planned a little surprise for you.
Yeah.
A blast from the past.
He had to keep it secret. It was ultra top secret.
Yeah.
Secrets do not fare well in this crew. They have a way of getting around.
But miraculously was kept secret. It was a total surprise to Dr. Future.
Yeah, they kept the secret from me, of all people.
Well, tell Al.
Well,
tell all.
So who knew? I mean, who knew that Dan Mapes was coming? He's a socio-political thought leader. And
that's a
spiritual-
pretty G-rated version of who he is.
Yes.
He was somebody that really...
He's a disruptor.
Yeah, he's a serious character. An archetypal character in the Joseph Campbellian tradition. He definitely is one-of-a-kind persons. He's super fast mind. He's been pioneering the next level of the web.
For a long time, as long as we've been involved.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He's one of Al's favorite playmates on the cutting edge.
Yeah, we used to have like a major technical sandbox here in Santa Cruz, and he was the captain of the sandbox.
Chief Shovel.
Yeah, and through him, we actually got on the Tonight Show, and we got to hang out with Billy Idol, and
And did our WOMAD tour.
the WOMAD, Peter Gabriel. Yeah, it was quite the adventure for all of us, including Bobby.
And Bigham.
And Bigham, yeah. Right.
Or otherwise known
And they
as-
arranged for him to show up at our birthday party, at Gab's and my birthday party. So, yeah,
it
it was
was
really
really
sweet.
good.
Thank you, Bigham.
It was a big surprise.
A Bigham surprise.
A Bigham surprise. In other circles, he's known as Dark Matters.
Yeah.
Or
Where can we look that up, Gab? Where can we find more about Dark Matters?
Dark Matters.
If we really want to go there. Yeah, nowhere. That's
right.
exactly where.
nowhere
Right now, right, yes.
and everywhere.
Yes. Yeah, the best kind, right?
Yes.
So that was our big event, it's our party this week. Why was Dan in town? Well, he's for our party, but also because there is a TED conference in San Francisco right now on AI.
Oh, and what are we doing here? We're just putting it to the test. We have our own relationship with AI.
Yeah,
right?
I'm trying to
We don't
use
need
what I
to
got.
go to
you
the
know?
conferences to have other people tell us about their relationships with AI. We have our very own.
Yeah, I even have a story that I'm ready for them to tell you.
Oh, and of course, you guys
Yeah.
know this is probably our fourth show now with our new podcast commentators, Larry and Mary from Notebook.
Larry and Mary.
Larry and Mary, they
from
did a report for
Notebook
us.
LM.
Yeah, I gave them a big topic. There's a story, an origin of life story that goes back 3 billion years, where an asteroid like the size of 4 Mount Everest.
Mount Everest.
Mount Everest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6 miles or so.
Yeah, huge,
The
huge
size
thing.
of this asteroid
Really
island
messed things up on this planet.
hitting
And
our planet.
it was a scientific article. I gave it to Larry and Mary to decipher for us, to explain it to the layman.
Okay, kids, this is your segment. Hit it.
Okay, and I'm gonna try I'm gonna try a little moment where I'm gonna put them on with this, and also try a little music subtract, see if that works. Okay.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into early Earth, like way early, talking massive meteorites, and how those events might have actually helped life get going. You sent over some research on a specific impact and its effects, and I gotta say, I was hooked after the first paragraph. What was the thing that immediately jumped out at you?
You know, it's funny. When we think extinction level event, we all go to the dinosaurs.
Yeah, total T-Rex wipeout.
Right. But this research, it's about an impact that makes that one look tiny. Like, completely changes how we think about early life on Earth.
Okay, now you've got me really curious. So this S2 impact, roughly 3.26 billion years ago, I remember reading it was big, but any sense of just how big?
Okay, so picture this. 4 Mount Everests.
What?
Yeah. 4 of them stacked on top of each other, hurtling through space on a crash course with Earth.
Okay, that's a serious rock.
Massive, even by, cosmic standards.
So something that big slams into Earth, what happened? The research mentions a cataclysmic event, and I can only imagine.
Not pretty. Imagine you're standing on the coast, say, somewhere like Cape Cod.
Okay.
But billions of years ago, the impact hits, shockwave goes out, triggers this tsunami unlike anything we can imagine. We're not talking about just a wave, but a force that rips up the seafloor, churns the entire ocean, throws debris miles inland.
That is intense. I remember reading that the impact site was described as a low-energy environment. Can you explain why that's important?
Absolutely. Instead of a violent, churning ocean, this was a calm, shallow area, perfect for those early life forms starting to pop up. Then, boom, everything changes in an instant.
So we've got this mega tsunami. Earth's probably shrouded in darkness. What about the heat from an impact this size? Can't imagine that was good for those early life forms either.
You're right on the money. The heat generated would have been off the charts. Research suggests the top layer of the ocean, maybe hundreds of meters deep, basically boiled away. And on top of that, all the dust and debris. It would have blocked out the sun, plunged the planet into darkness. Not ideal for life that relies on sunlight.
That sounds pretty apocalyptic. It's tough to imagine anything surviving that. But if I remember correctly, the research suggests there might have been a silver lining to all this. It's wild how something so destructive could have an upside.
It is remarkable, isn't it? So despite the chaos, and this is where it gets interesting, the research indicates that bacterial life, it bounces back shockingly fast. And not only that, there was this huge surge in bacteria that, get this, thrive on iron.
Iron. That's amazing. Why iron, of all things?
Now that is a fantastic question. Remember that massive tsunami we talked about?
Oh, yeah.
Well, research suggests it was powerful enough to churn up iron from deep in the ocean, bringing it to the surface. Essentially, this devastating event, it accidentally created the perfect buffet for these iron-loving bacteria to not just survive, but take over.
So it wasn't just random chance. The impact changed the environment in a way that specifically benefited these iron-eating bacteria.
Yeah.
That's wild. It's like hitting the reset button on evolution.
Exactly. It changes how we think about these impacts, shows how destruction and creation can be two sides of the same coin. It makes you wonder.
What other secrets are hiding, way back in Earth's history? And the fact that something this destructive could actually help new life, what does that say about how tough life really is? Like, could similar things, even on other planets, be what gets life going in the first place?
Exactly. It makes you question everything we thought we knew about how fragile life is, especially back then. Instead of being totally wiped out, some life forms got a lucky break. This impact literally shuffled everything around, and suddenly these iron-loving bacteria had the upper hand. It might have even changed the whole path of evolution.
It's not just surviving, it's that this specific impact made an environment where they could beat out everything else and take over. That's incredible. Do we know anything more about these bacteria? Like, how do they even use iron?
Well, trying to look back billions of years is tricky. It's like having a puzzle with most of the pieces missing. But we do know from geological records that these iron-oxidizing bacteria, that's what they're called, were everywhere during this time. These little guys could use iron, basically eat it for energy. Sounds weird, but it's similar to how we use oxygen.
Wow, that is a cool comparison. It really helps wrap your head around how different Earth was back then. And if these iron eaters were thriving, what did Earth even look like during their reign? Can you paint us a picture?
Okay, so instead of the blue and green we see now, imagine an ocean that's rusty red, maybe even purple, because of all the iron. These colors were like a giant billboard showing just how dominant these tiny organisms were. They were shaping the entire planet.
It's amazing these tiny things having such a huge impact. It really makes you realize how much we still don't know about early Earth and how life became what it is today.
Makes you wonder, right? What if these catastrophes on other planets are actually what sparks life, or at least pushes it in crazy new directions? It's a pretty humbling thought.
It really is. This deep dive has been incredible. If you had to pick just one question for our listeners to think about, based on everything we talked about, what would it be? You know what, that's a really good one. That's the question, isn't it? To wrap things up, what would you leave our listeners with? Something
Larry,
they can
forget
really
to
chew
listen
on
for the question.
based on everything we've talked about.
I know, right?
Well,
Not
seeing
perfect.
how life could be so resilient, even with these crazy events, it makes you wonder, what does this tell us about life on other planets?
Whoa. Okay, yeah, that's a big one.
Right?
Ask the AI.
It's easy to think life needs everything to be perfect, but early Earth, totally different story. Life found a way not just to survive, but to thrive in conditions we couldn't handle. So maybe these catastrophic events, the impacts, the chaos, they aren't just destructive. What if they're the spark plugs for evolution on other planets too? Planets that seem totally hostile, maybe they've got life that's way tougher than we imagine.
Really puts things in perspective. The universe is full of possibilities, and this research really drives home the point. Life finds a way. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey going back to early Earth, exploring these ancient impacts. It's definitely given us all a lot to think about.
Absolutely. And who knows what other secrets are still out there.
Exactly. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder that. Thank you for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the early Earth and the surprising ways life finds a way to thrive.
Hilarious.
All right.
Thank you, Larry and Mary.
Guys.
Hey, what do we need you guys for? We've got Larry and Mary.
Oh, no. We're way more interactive than they are.
Absolutely.
They
I'm
don't even
teasing.
realize that we're out there asking them questions. You know, they
You don't think
it's
so?
all
You
them.
don't think this? Oh,
No.
it's the
I don't
Future
think
Now
so.
crew checking
Well,
in once again.
I think we should find a way to get them to ask
Yeah.
us a question.
You
That's
think?
our
Yeah.
because we have to overcome their solipsism. Like right now, they think they're in the Larry Mary universe, but they're actually that whole universe is inside the Future Now universe.
Oh, okay. So
Right.
where it's turtles all the way up too.
That's right.
This was generated, by the way, with a little help from the AI from Notebook LM, the Google
Yeah.
notebook. You guys can try it yourself. Go to Notebook LM and upload to them a PDF of something you want a deep dive on, and Larry and Mary will make one for you.
That's right.
See what you think.
They love answering your questions, and they love doing it as their own little commentary in the podcast universe. It's really fun. I think they do a really good job. I enjoy it, although there are obvious holes usually.
Obvious.
Yeah. Okay. So
so-
what else you got for us? And by the way, the link for the original article that we sent to them is on our old archive site, www.drfutureshow.com.
Oh.
And we now have a new archive site. If you go to the SantaCruzVoice.com website and you see all of the current shows that are playing on Santa Cruz Voice, which
That's
we
right,
are
you-
so proud of,
You did a great job on that.
we have our own archived show on the SantaCruzVoice.com website. So if you're missing us live, you can catch us in post, and it's at www.SantaCruzVoice.com. And then on that front page, go down to the current shows and click on Future Now, and you'll see all the shows that we posted for this year.
The other big thing that happened this weekend was that Danny Sheehan and company at the New Paradigm Institute here in Santa Cruz were doing a big UFO reveal event,
Yes, indeed.
disclosure event.
They were, yeah. I took some notes on that. I don't know if I have my notes here. No, I don't have the right device. But I can tell you from memory what I...
Yeah, just
What I
you know,
paid attention
we had a
to.
few friends over. We watched the live stream from that. The sad part about it is that the government delayed the release of new information
That's
by
right.
about a year.
And they did this in defiance of the congressional committee that passed a law that compelled them to get all of the official government documents on the UFO records of the last 50 years, and to all of the contracting agencies to the government, were supposed to release that information on October 20th, which is why the New Paradigm Institute was having a big event online with the Humanity Rising, Jim Garrison and people. But still, it was a very informative 2-hour online event which did disclose a lot of the known information about the UFO phenomenon and the government withholding those secrets. I could review some of the details. I did find my notes. I think the most important takeaway is we need to insist that our congressional representatives hold whichever administration inherits the throne after the election to the fire, and that they must compel the rogue elements of our government to follow the law and to make this UFO disclosure happen, because these criminal elements of our government have decided on their own, without any authorization, to withhold weaponized information from our legislative, executive, congressional, and judiciary branches for their own nefarious purposes, so that they can drive us closer to nuclear war and world domination through their secret agenda. And this is being done with our tax dollars. And the folks at the New Paradigm Institute feel it's very important for us to make our government accountable and come clean with this information.
Since the release, or the attempted release, of old information, there has been new information that hasn't been squelched just yet. It can't be, because it's out in the public. And one of them is this bizarre phenomenon that happened initially around Langley Air Force Base about a year ago. And also around Edwards Air Force Base and the Department of Energy's Nevada National Security Site outside of Las Vegas.
So tell us about that.
Yeah. This phenomenon, what they're calling mysterious drones, call them drones because I guess people relate to them, but they appear over these top secret facilities, hang out for a while, and then go away.
Traveling at a very high speed.
Well, they hover too, checking out the base. And apparently, all of our top military bases that they've been checking out can't do a darn thing about them.
Right.
You know, they come
Anybody
up and
who
they go.
watched this about 2 weeks ago on The Daily Show, there was an interview with
Luis
Elizondo.
Elizondo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how the official disguised name for UFO now is like UAP, something like that, unknown phenomenon. He says they're real and there's not much we can do about it. And so we may as well acknowledge it and reach out as a unified human civilization in peace.
Yeah, maybe, but remember in Star Trek, remember the biggest enemy of humanity? Remember what that race was?
Wasn't it humans that had been ejected? It was like a bunch of orphaned humans that had been...
No, that's Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan or something. No, I'm talking
who
about...
are you talking about?
I'm talking about the Borg.
Okay.
A Borg, which they assimilate everything that they run into. And they would appear on the starship and they just start looking at the technology and analyzing it and ignoring the humans.
Well, because the humans aren't a threat.
No, the humans aren't of interest to them.
That's right.
And these weren't, the drones, by the way, were huge. They were like 20 feet. They were enormous drones.
20-foot drones, that's
20-foot drones, yeah.
And
so
they
not only
traveled-
did they hover, but then they zipped off at over 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, just took off when
And
they wanted to.
and our government had no way to respond to these things. They didn't have an anti-quote, drone measure
Yeah, right.
in place to track it or stop it
Can you
or
believe it?
anything.
I mean, with all the drones in the Middle East and Ukraine, you'd think they'd know.
Yeah, brings up a real issue, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, they didn't show up on the radar very often, and they were hard to track after they left military airspace. And there are federal laws that bar the military and everyone else from shooting down drones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, unless they're determined to pose a direct threat. You're not supposed to shoot them down. But it seems like spying on a secure military base near the CIA headquarters just doesn't, that doesn't rise your idea of a threat. Yeah, I don't know what does.
And it doesn't look good for our government to say, oh, gosh, we don't know what that was. Or
Well, that's why they've been keeping it secret so long, because really, if they've been aware since Roswell and maybe even before that, they have all kinds of reasons why they don't want the rest of the world to know that they're not in control. Right? They're very busy trying to project that we're the top dogs in the defense of the world.
That's an unbelievable 17 days. They took their time evaluating our Langley Air Force Base.
Remarkable. And the other kind of crazy thing about this is that generally we would take these kind of anti-aircraft measures, but because they were over these very protected airspace places, they were unable to say shoot them down. Because we have policies in place that prevent such a thing.
Yeah.
So they really didn't have a protocol for such.
Will they now, do you think?
I think they're probably working on that.
They probably want to.
Yeah, I mean, because if it was a foreign entity, if it was some other country spying on us, then, that should be very clearly and quickly identified.
You would think, but maybe they did.
And disclosed to us, by the way.
I suspect maybe the military knows a little bit about it and they want it. That's probably why they didn't want to kill it. Because one of the things that Danny revealed was that our military, when they first got some crashed saucers and reverse engineered them, they were able to get these amazing flying machines, and they want more of that technology.
Right.
And that's been going on since the 50s. So who knows, maybe these spheres represented the latest thing that they wanted, so they didn't want to destroy it. Or maybe they were doing some kind of experiments with the aliens in liaison with each other.
Maybe, but the story that is actually being promulgated by Danny during this disclosure is that our secret, unelected criminal element in our government is driving the entire world into nuclear war and is leading the charge to weaponize the border around NATO with first strike capabilities, which is pushing Putin into returning to a first strike status. They have reset the nuclear clock so that it's closer to the
midnight.
mad moment, to midnight.
Oh, that's the doomsday clock.
And he says that these elements are also using their reverse engineered technology that no one else has access to on the known bases where our undisclosed extraterrestrial visitors have their headquarters or where we know them to be. And that these actions are not accountable and they are creating a sensation of us sleepwalking towards our own doom, and that we need to wake up and do something about it and get the conscientious parts of our government to act and rein it in.
Well, one hopeful crack in this case was earlier this year, a Chinese national was arrested for flying a drone over near Langley Base as well. But he was caught quickly, and they quickly saw that he bought the drone from Costco.
Not a 20-foot diameter or in length.
Orb.
Yes.
Away.
Yeah.
I'm not unconvinced that it's not our own technology, not our own government.
Yeah, it could be some of that. Yeah, right, exactly.
I live in New Jersey, and I live near an FAA technical center as well as an Air Force wing. And, they're running operations all the time. And 25 years ago, we were seeing things that looked like spaceships that very well could have been drone technology. Several of us in the neighborhood and friends of mine, we've had these experiences where 25 years ago you would say, oh, it's an alien ship. But now knowing what I know, I'm very skeptical of that and believe that it was likely some sort of technology that we were just completely unaware of at the time.
Well, that has implications too. If it is some kind of new propulsion system, isn't it worthwhile to know if we have something like anti-gravity that
right. Well, they're not going to tell us that. And the people who are observing these things, maybe some of them don't know, but somebody's got to know. And maybe that's why it's taking so long to come out, because they don't want everybody to know about this capability.
Well, it is a national security issue.
Absolutely.
But the point is, they are not disclosing it to the representatives of the people, and they are spending the people's money. And we need to put honesty back into our top leadership.
But look,
yes and no.
Yeah, look, what would happen if we suddenly obsoleted? Yeah, sometimes. But what happens if you have a technology that instantly obsoletes jets and rockets?
Yeah, you can't
that would mess with the economy unbelievably.
It would screw everything up. So while I'm a fan of disclosure and honesty and informed consent and things like that, I do see a reason to keep things secret, because a lot of our national interest, our safety, is often tied to this information that we might not understand the total breadth of. If we just demand information.
I think we have to really approach the difference between discretion and criminal dishonesty. because we cannot just give a free pass to people who are back engineering superior technology, using it covertly, perhaps in criminal activity, spending public money, distorting the entire budgetary process of Congress to keep it secret, and lying to the people, and then putting those practices out as the law of the land for generation after generation. We can't allow our civilization to be confiscated by the secret keepers.
Well, isn't that a part of our massive budget that we give to the military industrial project? This whole industry, we earmark billions of dollars to this. So yeah, we don't know everything that's happening, and it is budgeted through Congress. It's not like these appropriations are somehow secret, but we don't know everything that's happening.
Absolutely secret. There are in 2000 the General Accounting Office of the United States government that was constitutionally compelled to provide audited financial records of their spending to the Congress, suspended audited financial accounting and recording in favor of changing the mandate of the government to the General Accountability Office. There are trillions of dollars of public money that has been spent that is not accounted for, and that
we lost a whole plane
That's
of
Catherine
trillions.
Austin
You remember when we
it's
lost?
like you're defending you are defending the mafia elements of our government.
No, I was just going to say that we lost trillions of dollars in an airplane once. I was not defending anything. So
I'm talking about accounting missing. I'm talking about
I get that.
accountability.
I'm just saying, you're saying that money is taken and it's not, and it's out of the budget. And I'm saying, no, it's fully budgeted when we give hundreds of billions of dollars to the military.
Yeah, we should know
to
about
spend.
that. Yeah, and they also have a black budget. How does
I'm not defending. I'm just
Yeah.
saying this is a fact. Like, it's not like they're like, just taking money. We earmark the money, and what they do with it is another question. But I'm saying it's not like a mystery that the money is being given to the government.
And thank God we have a certain amount of credibility
Or to the
with
military,
that,
I
which we can
should say.
track that. Yeah.
But what Sun is saying is that no, we don't always have this accountability,
Well,
right? I mean, when you have a $500 hammer and a $1,000 toilet
lying.
seat, something's wrong.
Somebody's lying.
Yeah, something's wrong.
Well, there's
For
a
sure.
whole rabbit tunnel, a rabbit hole that involves
Space program.
the super secret space
Bobby's
program.
trying to speak. Yeah.
The super secret space program is with Bobby.
Raise your hand,
That's
Bobby.
a good point, Bobby. How did the super secret space program get funded?
Well, Catherine Austin Fitz
There you
was
go.
talking about the secret space program for at least 20 years now, and this black budget program. And we're talking billions and billions of taxpayer dollars going into
Last
this.
time I tuned in years ago, it was 54 trillion that had a university graduate program trying to account for, going back through audited records as far as they could.
And
Yes.
and you think that's where the crash retrieval budgets are and stuff?
Oh, I'm sure.
Reverse engineering.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So did you guys see on the 16th, this secret Pentagon program, quote, mastered anti-gravity? There are whistleblowers who are claiming this now?
No, I haven't
see
heard about
that.
that.
Tell
That's
us more.
interesting. It seems like they would seed it out to Boeing or someone so that they wouldn't disrupt the industries. How does this one get revealed?
So this was Joe Rogan, voices on last Wednesday, said that he had a genuine fear. He voiced his genuine concern over whistleblower claims that the U.S. military had mastered, quote, alien anti-gravity technology. So this would actually fit in perfectly with what we're talking about right now, that it's not some alien entity, it's not a foreign entity, it's actually us.
Well, it all is ultimately us anyway.
Threatening, threatening
another
other humans and threatening the potential that has not been disclosed that ancient other life forms that are galactic that may have been here forever and just do not reveal themselves to us because we're not their primary concern. But we cannot. Danny Sheehan was saying that they tell us that if the nuclear threat goes full tilt and they have to intervene, and that this is the way that the alien presence is revealed, they believe it could be catastrophic to our civilization, and that it's very important that we actually get a handle on it before that happens.
So Rogan says he was a little skeptical. I'll read from the article.
Okay.
So the person who came forward, who he was interviewing, is someone named Schellenberger, who divulged that his sources have direct evidence that America has covertly mastered anti-gravity. He's an academic, two-time candidate for California governor. He found the notion himself hard to believe. However, He said he had interviewed people who are not comfortable coming forward yet, saying that they have direct evidence. His sources have direct evidence. And then Luis Elizondo, who you mentioned previously, he's also claimed that this technology exists.
His new book, Imminent.
Imminent inside the Pentagon's hunt for UFOs.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
So is it possible that they kept it secret all this time? Since the 50s, I think, when the anti-gravity work went black.
Yeah, Lou Alessandro, I think, described how the security infrastructure works, and that the fragmentation of information that they use to keep things secret means that when you get the clearance to receive a particular fragment of the secret information, you are in a box that is so far removed from all the other fragments that you cannot have an overview. And so the more secrecy there is, it's like you can have many participants who all have one tiny fragment, and none of them will have an overview.
Yeah, so it's like the blind man feeling the elephant.
Yeah.
See what we're dealing with here.
Imagine you were able to enclose your aircraft in a bubble that renders it immune from the effects of gravity. The way we experience time on Earth would no longer be relevant because you would be insulated from Earth's time and gravity. And that's bonkers.
You think?
Yes. Like you're suspended. You're just like suspended in animation, sort of, in this. Talk about the Matrix.
Is it true? Could it be true?
Is it
I mean,
anything?
in your understanding of physics and mass space-time is such...
I mean, I don't understand time. I know that time is not linear as we experience it or seem to. Yeah, I think we use time as a crutch, as a way to kind of make sense of the insanity and utter chaos that we actually exist in. It's like a security blanket for us, the idea of time.
Or is time like one of the people feeling the elephant, just one aspect of the larger organism?
Think of it that way. I think that our consciousness is a unique collection of sensors, of overlays of information, and we put it together in very specific, minimalist ways.
It kind of makes sense to us.
But the universe of energy is vast beyond compare of anything we have access to, and is moving at an entirely different framework than we even comprehend.
Yeah, it seems like it's infinity in all directions.
That's right. Infinity music resonating in all directions.
What's that sound like?
Yeah, everything.
How do you tap in? And where do you tap in? That's your organism. Right?
Yeah, everything, man. You have to say groovy.
Groovy.
Now, you know that I was once presented with a banner telling me I am groovy.
Yeah, it's true. It says,
Nobody would ever deny your grooviness.
hey, Groovy Tubes, do you have the commercials queued up? Or,
Groovy Tube!
Forget about those this week.
I didn't forget about them.
Okay.
I should have them here any minute here. Okay, you ready for a commercial?
Yeah, I think we go to our break.
All right.
These are the fine folks that keep us on the air.
All right, you ready?
Go for it.
Using the credit cards was easy, but now what? Reduce your payments. Call the free debt helpline and access the special assistance programs credit card companies set up to help you reduce your payments. It's a free call, so make the call right now. 800-957-6063. 800-957-6063. Reduce your payment. 800-957-6063.
Deer fence, wood fence, livestock chain link, vinyl, iron fence, Cypress Coast fence, Cypress Coast fence.
My name is Stephen Digger. My wife and I live in Royal Oak. When my wife and I were looking to find someone to build our fence, Cypress Coast fence was highly recommended. It was amazing. These folks are masters at their craft. They're super professional. They came in when they said they were going to come in. They finished when they said they were going to finish. The fence is perfect for our needs, everything they said it was going to be, and then some.
Give us a call for your no-obligation consultation at 831-783-1500 or at cypresscoastfence.com.
We don't just build fences, we make good neighbors.
Deer fence, wood fence, livestock chain link, vinyl, iron fence, Cypress Coast fence, Cypress Coast fence.
Treehouse dispenses not only the finest cannabis products, but information to those who want to know how to use cannabis for maximum benefit. Hello, I'm Jenna. If you would like to know how best to use cannabis, ask your friends and neighbors at Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 Soquel Drive. If you're 21 plus with a valid ID, no appointment is necessary and the information is free. Order online at ourtreehouse.io and pick up at our drive-thru. See you soon.
Football at the Back Nine is back. We have Sunday ticket to enjoy every game, every Sunday. Breakfast sandwich and beverage specials too. Enjoy happy hour twice on Sunday from 10 to 12 and 3 to 6. Dollar wings all day Sunday and during Monday and Thursday night games as well. With the easiest restaurant to get to in the county, right off Pasatiempo Drive with lots of parking. Time to eat and watch football. See you at the 9.
Okay, welcome back to the show. The UFO issue is a big one. We thought it might come to a head this last weekend, but no, it continues. It continues to.
But you know what seems to be coming to a head is that we're all in this chaos spiral towards the election. And between the full moon and the next 2 weeks, I think all of us need some chill pills. We all need to calm down. We all need to realize that eternity lasts a long time and we're going to get through this.
Eternity lasts a long time. Somebody write that down. In case you missed it, eternity lasts a long time.
Get over it.
Infinity in all directions.
Get over it. Get under it. Get beside it.
Hurry up.
Yeah.
Get it.
Make it a part of you. That's right. Full integration of eternity now.
It's the eternal party. So I'm going to cover a couple other stories that I think are fascinating this week.
All right. Sounds good.
Live Science posted a nice piece on how the Tasmanian tiger is about to be brought back alive again. It's an extincted animal from the 1930s. It was an apex predator.
Wow.
Yeah. And they've got a 110-year-old pickled head of one.
Pickled head.
And they're just about complete.
It's got probiotics.
That's right. It's just the head, so you can see it here. Just the head. And the researchers at Colosso Biosciences have assembled its genome and developed artificial reproductive technologies that can help de-extinct this species.
How do we feel about that? Is this like Jurassic Park, guys?
De-extinction.
Doesn't that make you feel secure if the biosystem is somehow interrupted by the environment or by human activity, that there's a record somewhere that can be regenerated?
Well, look, we started
yes and
this.
no.
Yeah.
Just because it could doesn't mean it should.
In good Libra fashion, I'll say yes and no.
Can make a case for both sides.
I like it. Both sides of the balance.
But look,
the fulcrum is
don't you think our
perfectly
species has
balanced.
been playing with the balance for a long time? With airplanes, we move animals and seeds and species all everywhere that never happened before.
Well, I'm thinking, I think about the things that we unearthed. Like when we found the woolly mammoth in Siberia that was frozen in ice, and it was instantly frozen. They say within a couple of hours, where they find these fresh clover and flowers in its mouth that it had been eating.
You can see what's in its stomach.
And I think about when we defrost these things, what else are we defrosting? What bacteria that is deadly to us today?
Could they kill us?
Sure. Back to the idea that time does exist. I mean, that is an absolute time print.
Yes.
Well, the way I understand it, though, is that these microbes are trying to get into our system. Right, they're trying to get the code.
They're like,
we after you.
You thought we were dead.
Yeah, and they're dialing in. They're
we
playing
will live
with the code.
through you. That's right. We will get into you and tell you that you still need to procreate for us, but you'll think it's really for you.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a reason we're in these meat bodies, but it's not what we think.
But
we're 90% microbial. Don't forget this.
So my guess is that the most modern, sophisticated microbes are the ones that are going to get in us. The old ones were too primitive.
Get into us and not kill us.
Not kill us. They have no idea what the future genome looks like. These earlier ones.
So you think they have a choice? Like
even the brilliant ones. It's like
only
trying
the
to get
smart, cool, modern ones are going to choose us, and the rest are going to die trying.
It's like trying to think that an ancient
So evolutionarily speaking, those of us who exist now, think about how we have had to evolve to get here, and those suckers are not here. And I feel
they're frozen.
Yes, keep them frozen.
Well,
they're here. They're just waiting for their moment to be regenerated.
I'm waiting for my moment, Mr. DeMille.
Are you ready for your freeze up?
Ready for my thaw up. I'm ready for my thought,
You're
Mr.
gonna be thawed
DeMille.
out. You're gonna be thawed out. Hopefully you won't melt.
Just your heart.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. If something extincts itself and it can't evolve, whether it could be the ficus tree in Brazil,
It could be a good reason for
in
it.
South America, where
I agree. I agree. But in this case, in the case of the Tasmanian tigers, which is what I was talking about here,
Yeah, right. Back to where we started.
yeah, they were. Look, we are responsible for their extinction. They were persecuted by humans. They were apex predators. They were top of their ecosystem in
Showed
Tasmania.
them.
Yeah, we showed them. Right, we came in with
apex what?
Hey, mother, who you think? Whose territory do you think it is
right.
again? Whose territory do you think it is? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Let's
Just
deal
wait
with
until
this.
the Tasmanian
Yeah, we're-
aliens show us.
We are the apex predators now.
Not according to the aliens.
So we extincted
Yeah.
these
We're
guys.
bringing back the dodo, also, by the way.
Yeah, well, they
Yes.
weren't.
All we need
apex-
is Fred Flintstone.
They were probably a very good source of food. I think that even the Spaniards would agree.
Is that who extincted them?
I do believe.
They have too many dodo drumsticks?
Yeah. Well, look, the genome provides the full blueprint for de-extincting species. So having it complete, it gives you a very high quality reproduction.
Now, as I'm reading this, it's jogging my memory that maybe last year or the year before, they actually thought that they spotted a Tasmanian tiger in the wild.
Yeah, but that's like spotting Bigfoot.
No,
Right? It's not like-
Sometimes this happens, though, where we think
Yeah.
something's fully extinct.
It's possible, but
And maybe for the most part, we would say
Yeah.
it's extinct, right? Because the population just isn't there.
though, if there is one, we should bag him and
Bag him and tag him. Bag him and tag him and resurrect him.
let him go again after you get a sample of his DNA. And then
Remember Taz?
cross-pollinate it with the one we just de-extincted.
Yeah, the cartoon character.
No, I don't know that one.
You don't?
No, which
Looney Tunes.
what's his name again?
He's Taz, man. He's
Taz.
Tasmanian devil.
Taz.
This is a
Oh, the
Tasmanian
Tasmanian
tiger.
devil. Yeah, okay.
But
All
yeah.
right, yeah, I get it.
There's
Yeah.
really cool Tasmanian spiders, too.
Oh.
The largest spiders in the world are Tasmanian cave spiders.
Do you guys ever go on Reddit and look at all of the creatures that people post that come from Australia, Tasmania? Like, these are beasts that if we saw them here in the United States, we would all wear like full body armor. We'd be like armed with all kinds of weapons. And yeah, we'd be afraid to walk anywhere. This is why those people are a lot tougher than we are sometimes, I think. Those Australians down under.
Yeah. Environmental hazards.
I don't know. I see them very similar to the people that hate this comparison, but
What?
to New Zealanders,
Oh, okay.
right? And
They would hate that
Aussies
comparison?
and New Zealanders, they don't. They
You're
Kiwis.
talking about Tasmanian tigers and kiwis?
Yeah, no, I was more generalizing
Maori?
to our species, of course.
Oh, you're just talking about the Australians and
Yeah,
the
and I
New
was saying
Zealanders.
that. Well, look, if that was what Gabs was saying was true about
Kiwis and the Aussies. That's
Aussies have
familiar.
every imaginable deadly spider, snake you can imagine,
And they're huge.
They're huge.
They're like on steroids.
Yeah,
They're not just deadly.
Not a friendly place.
Yeah,
and yet,
there's a reason that the Brits put a penal colony there.
yeah, it's not a good place in some ways. Alternatively, New Zealand has none of this. They don't have anything that's deadly.
Really?
There, from what I've heard, yeah.
Well, and not only that, they're so enlightened there that the government took a vote on preventing genetic experimentation to sterilize their mosquitoes to eradicate them because they felt it was a non-natural interference.
Huh.
So they
Yeah,
preserve
because you don't
natural
know.
law.
Right. Yeah,
They're
you don't
very
know
wise
what's going
there.
to arise after you do that, right? What critter will.
Well, yeah, but here we don't care. We just do it anyway.
Crazy.
No,
Yeah,
we
well-
just don't have the ability to stop them here because we're a little too into our freedom.
Well, yeah, between the New Zealanders and the Australians, because they had no spiders or predatory creatures to deal with in New Zealand, and yet they're very similar. So even though the Aussies dealt with all these issues, did it really change them that much?
Well, maybe your brain evolves differently. You know, when I'm not running from a giant spider,
Yeah, you're more
you know,
relaxed.
my brain. Yes, has a greater time to think. I'm not
I see,
acting in
yeah.
this like
Okay.
hippocampal,
You're
right?
more
This
peaceful.
fight or
You're
flight.
more-
Having a traumatic
Yeah.
memory.
It's easier to, I guess.
Listen, if you grew up in Philadelphia, you know about
Seen
these.
some giant spiders.
They call them water bugs, but they're not. They're actually American cockroaches
All right,
that come
so
into your
you
house
get
at
back-
night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge, 2-inch long. Oh yes, it will scar you too. I promise. That's right. So
You get back.
you put me in New Zealand where I can just.
Yeah, you can kick back and
That's
just
right. I can relax.
get back to the business of
I can get back to
raising sheep.
Blow
not
kisses
sheeple, by the way, not
sheep.
sheeple, but
Raising
sheep.
sheep, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, well, there you have it.
Boom. What time is it?
It's time for a joke. Hey
Ask-
Siri.
Yeah,
tell
Siri
us
for
a
this
joke.
is what she does. She asks Siri for a joke.
Okay.
Can we hear one?
Moments like this,
Siri.
never,
Okay, let's see.
Your turn.
never a dull moment.
Hey
around
Siri,
Gabs.
tell us a joke.
Someone asked me to make a donation for a new swimming pool. So I gave them a glass of water.
She escaped.
But boom.
Let's see if it has any Australian jokes. Hey Siri, tell me a joke about Australia.
A man walked into a bookshop and said to a salesperson, "I'm looking for that new book on indecisiveness. Do you have it?" The bookseller said, "I'm not sure." The man replied, "That's the one."
Okay, not an Australia joke,
What does
but
that do about Australia?
Maybe she thinks Australians are indecisive.
You think?
You know what that was? You asked her if she could tell you an Australian joke, and she wasn't sure. So she made a joke about not
indecisiveness.
being sure.
About
Hey, these AIs are getting smarter in ways we could not predict.
I got a few serious stories here.
Serious stories?
Okay, you got like 3 minutes.
There is a newly developed air defense laser system that they claim to have 100% success in taking down incoming threats. And this is in the UK. And several militaries are going for it big time, including Israel, because a laser with pinpoint accuracy can take out a bunch of missiles and very cheaply. Right now, the way Israel's defending itself requires missiles that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars for every one. This is like ridiculously less expensive.
laser pinpoint accuracy. It takes out 100%.
That's right.
How does the laser work exactly? What do they do?
Super powerful laser pulses that can take out missiles, incoming missiles. It's the idea that right now it costs a lot of money to have another missile to hit an incoming missile. That's the standard protocol for taking them down. Missile
This
for
is
missile.
a beam weapon.
A beam. Beam takes down the missile. Now, this new one is called Dragonfire, and it can tackle just about any visible threat that it sees. Firing a Dragonfire for about 10 seconds costs about the same as using a heater for an hour. Yeah, it's about $13 per shot, they say, and identifies, tracks, and defeats incoming threats in seconds. Now, they're looking at how they can fit jets with this and be able to shoot down missiles from the sky as well. It gives a new lease on life to military jets, and spending hundreds of millions on jets is becoming obsolete because of all this drone technology.
So is this a proposal to build a weapon or an actual weapon?
Oh, this is actually, Israel's. It's called the Iron Beam Defense.
That's right up in Israel.
Yeah.
So it exists.
They say that it should be the tail end of 2025.
It's $5.2 billion of U.S. money going into it.
I think they should be going for squirt guns too. Anyway,
You think so?
let's
$8.7 billion
right
total
back.
for the beam weapons.
Great Britain, they're working on this beam weapon, and also Japan has got their beam weapon ready too.
Oh, shit. Dragon
And,
fire
So
laser.
it's just a matter of
Yeah.
time, really, before that kind of technology is deployed.
Oh, the system will be fitted to British military jets.
No doubt American ones.
Well, yeah. They're probably leading the way, no doubt.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than using the Iron Dome missiles to
a lot
counteract
cheaper.
drones. Yeah,
Huge.
You just
It's a
burn
quantum
I just
way
wonder
cheaper.
what quality is
It makes
in
missiles
play.
obsolete. It's what it does.
I know,
You think
but
about it.
why? Does it make them so hot that they explode? Does it take over their tracking frequencies? So
It burns a hole through.
Okay,
yeah, it burns
so
a hole right through.
so you
Right
just
through them. Right through those suckers.
you have to cauterize the right parts.
They try to go for the head of the missile. Well, the guidance system, the body of the missile, I guess, or the drone that's coming at them.
Isn't that what the kind of missiles that mislead the missiles and get them to follow the heat signal instead of something else? That's what I was wondering. I was wondering if it was a heat-based technology or if it was some kind of signal interruption or if it was some kind of burn.
It burns. It's kind of like you take a magnifying glass and you go outside where the sun is, and on a piece of paper, it just kind of burns through. It does that on the body of these drones.
Wow. Okay. It can target them well enough that it can stick with them long enough for that to happen.
It's a laser, so it's a coherent beam that doesn't spread very far. after 20, 30 miles.
Classically, alien tech would send a beam not to destroy a ship, but to collect data about it.
Yeah, right. It would bounce back. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, to me, the light frequency is the laser beam spectrum is so targeted that you have to know what metal you're sending the light beam to melt, or it'll be useless, you know?
If you've seen some of these lasers, especially the green ones that required cooling, like on Virtuosity, Warren Zara had these huge lasers and they'd go to these raves and stuff. But if you had your camera, it would burn a hole into your camera.
We lost when we did the show at the Clock Tower in 2001 in downtown Santa Cruz. Pat Flanagan's green laser burnt holes in our cameras. We had permanent holes in the middle of our camera lens after that. But that's just one little light-sensitive photon.
Well, we're talking things that are maybe 1,000 times more powerful.
Yeah, and they're probably being directed through a rarefied atmosphere that doesn't have a lot of friction and things to interrupt it. Although, no, I guess it is. Missiles are still in the low Earth atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
So it's got to navigate the oxygen and the nitrogen and the various things that are slowing it down and distracting it.
All these, like the Iron Dome rockets, they cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then you're talking about just a pulse of this one beam is costing maybe $10 to vaporize some part of a drone.
Is it electric?
It's electric. It's electric.
So does it work during a brownout?
So I'm sure it drives around with these huge Tesla-like batteries.
We're going to have to stop making money on weapons. We're going to have to start making money on things other than how fast we can hurt each other. I wonder, I like thinking about the idea that maybe these beam weapons can harm the metal objects and maybe enhance the bio objects. Like, imagine if the light frequencies reversed people's cancer or...
Well, Mrs. Future, you are thinking ahead here because light is way more than heat and way more than just destroying things. That's for sure. And NASA has been using laser lights for connecting to their spacecraft now to send back massive amounts of data, way better than radio in terms of bandwidth. Starlink is using lasers now to communicate with each other instead of radio waves. So it's a serious upgrade for us to think of light in the sense of information.
It's mind-blowing for me to, in my brain, have the equivalent of a weaponized flashlight take out a missile. I don't really understand how that's supposed to work.
And it might not work in poor weather conditions, by the way. If it's cloudy.
It's cloudy. Bring out the missiles.
And to me, it seems like perhaps it's an article that's really a ruse to just get money. That it might sound so good that it's not actually possible.
Well, when we think of directed energy weapons, such as laser beams, I was thinking about Cuba. If you recall, several years ago, we had people from the U.S.
We had a delegation that came back with injured, like deaf. And
sonic, right. They had some sort of
electromagnetic injuries.
Sonic blast. So I'm thinking about, we already have these technologies. And I guess part of the pros of it, there are some pros and cons, obviously. I think the biggest pro is that you can probably mitigate collateral damage. You can pinpoint exactly where you want your light beam to go or your sound weapon.
It's a huge amount of money, too.
Think about the cost of ammunition, the cost of these, right? The actual hardware
but again,
involved.
Back to the idea of a squirt gun.
Squirt gun.
We've got $1 million missile, the Iron Dome. We've got $1 million missile that we know we can send to take out a missile that's coming. And we know that that's like meets like. We've got two projectiles that are going to explode.
Oh, you mean how does that laser...
Yeah, and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so now instead of spending $1 million on a projectile to stop that projectile, we instead spend, what did you say, $12 to beam a light that has magic properties to do something to that projectile. Either, Bobby says, burn through it, which I think is very materials dependent, or to redirect it through some kind of heat signature or some kind of guidance system interruption, or it's like, which part of the laser beam are we using and how is that interacting with this bomb? And if we're spending $12, is that going to be a miss? And then that missile is going to actually hit the target. So we've only spent $12, but we didn't stop the missile,
$13. $13 a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds to me, just knowing nothing, not being an engineer, but it sounds to me like it's a proposal to get money more than it is a viable weapon. And
I don't know about that.
Well, it's one of those things. It's going to directed energy weapons have been around for a while, much like flying cars. I think even Tesla talked about death rays back in the 30s. So it's not a new concept, but it is reaching some culmination in actually existing.
What's interesting, though, so let's say I'm using a laser. Am I going to use another laser to counteract that laser, or will I use an actual ballistic weapon as a shield? I would think you would use ballistic weaponry, our traditional weaponry, in order to block the laser. Yeah, so there's a need. I don't think we're ever going to get rid of ballistic weaponry in light of this technology.
Anti technology.
Right.
okay, yeah, I was going to say, like, it would be nice if, as the futures, we directed this conversation towards de-escalation.
With squirt guns and honks on the nose. Yeah. Why do you take yourself so seriously?
Well, my idea is to use the lasers to create incredible art in the sky, just to get everyone's attention off of what they thought was important.
I love your ideas, honey. I think you are such an amazing, out of the blue, out of the box peacenik.
This is why we need the aliens. If you really want people to come together on Earth, bring the aliens.
Show.
The right ones. Only the good ones.
Yeah, the right ones.
You don't want to.
Well, wait, where was I just hearing that? Oh, gosh. I was listening to something with Bigham I told you about the woman who was working with the Pentagon, and that's what she was saying. And the other thing is, like, we don't have room for... Oh, it was my friend, John Lefevre, who wrote this book that I'm reading. He talks about how aliens, if they're coming here, these are aliens, like, they're waiting to see how we have evolved. And they're not going to let us see them because we haven't gotten the picture. We're a threat. We're not going to
investigating us because we're using nukes that are interrupting the frequencies that are used for galactic communication. And they're like, hey, we got a bug in the system on that rogue planet. Let's go check it out. Oh, what are those dumb monkeys doing this time?
And there aren't any like evil aliens out there because evil and the concept of universality is eliminated, right? Evil is something that humans have created.
Well, not just humans. I think evil is subjective to who's viewing it.
Well,
like,
just even the word,
you out,
right? The word evil, right? We created through language. Like animals don't have that word or that concept.
Well, they don't use words, but I bet they have that concept. I think we animals created a word that is universal among embodied life forms, because anything that is a threat to your embodied survival, you're going to have some concept of not wanting more of it and opposing it with your survival instincts.
Yeah, even a mosquito doesn't want to be swatted.
I'm curious about the etymology of the word evil.
Don't you think it's?
Well, I'm saying humans own all words, but the concept itself is like a vibration.
Well, I'm curious, just to kind of know, where
is evil any different than our understanding of yin yang or plus and minus?
Yeah. That's how I look at it. I think it's Platonic. I think it's out there in the realm of universal concepts.
It's an energetic.
I think the word evil or concept of evil was probably born out of religion and needing to say that things were good versus bad in order to control people.
So the use of the dualistic nature of universe to control.
So let's go to etymology.com.
Not to deny that aspect of it isn't for sure for real, but it's just a part of the explanation, because religion and all the concepts that religion embraces emerge over time in all human societies, and possibly, we don't know, in all sentient societies or even in all embodied living societies. And the fact that it emerges and becomes associated with good and bad and things that we want more of and things we want less of and things that are taboo is coming from a deeper source, which is just the inherent nature of self-interest, taking as good all the things that enhance self-interest and taking as evil all the things that negate it.
Deep topic. Let's explore it in terms of current situations we find ourselves in. Okay. For example, Space Force right now is tracking down a mystery that happened in Geosynchronis orbit. Right. A communications satellite, the IntelSat 33E, which is designed to provide communications to Europe, Africa, and parts of the Asia-Pacific region, suddenly lost power after an anomaly last Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to figure out WTF. Boeing is the satellite manufacturer. Doesn't look like they'll be able to recover the satellite. Now, what's strange here is that it appears to have been broken into several smaller parts, which the Space Force is tracking. They're tracking the debris field that was created. So it looks like something hit it. Something hit it. And it broke the IntelSat into 20 pieces.
Oh, yeah, that definitely sounds like a
20
collision.
It's totaled.
Totaled.
Yeah.
How
Where's
big
the
was the
insurance
space
paid off
dust?
on that?
It's not modular. It's 20 pieces.
IntelSat,
Not
poor
good.
guys.
But why did it break
its
apart?
propulsion system exploded.
Oh, right.
That's what
yes.
they think
Something-
that might be it.
So it was
Propulsion
self-inflicted.
system? Or
Well, coming from Boeing's really been dropping the ball lately.
yeah, or could have been hit by a laser beam, blow up
The leader
propulsion
of
system.
Boeing these days.
Yeah, maybe
The
they
laser beam.
overheated. Maybe the laser beam overheated the propulsion system.
Well, that is one of the issues of taking out other satellites and using lasers, not just here, but in space, right, as a weapon. So they're trying to figure it
How high
out.
up is the IntelSat satellite? I mean,
I believe this was a geosynchronous.
So
Yeah.
it seems to me that the highest thing that we have in orbit until the Polaris Dawn mission was the International Space Station. And
It's
that-
250 miles or so.
Yeah, but most things that are in orbit are in low Earth orbit or between low Earth orbit and the space station. So we're talking about something that's maybe 100 miles up.
No, a geosynchronous orbit is 23,000 miles up.
23,000?
Yeah, it's way up.
It'd be like
Yeah.
upper stratosphere,
well, no,
like
it's really
above
high.
that.
No,
actually.
it's about 23,000
Actually more,
miles.
Oh, 23,000
okay?
miles
not
above,
feet.
not feet. Yeah.
Yeah, now we're
Stratosphere,
talking
every-
way
No, that's-
out there. It's
yeah.
way higher than
All
low
of
Earth
the
orbit.
atmosphere is only about
It's above.
65 miles.
Yeah.
And the reason why
Yeah.
you want to be that far away is that you can cover the entire planet
So it's
in
just
3
above.
satellites. That's what Arthur C. Clarke's interesting breakthrough was in
Okay.
seeing this back in the 40s.
Okay.
How 3 satellites can provide communications for the entire planet.
Okay, so we got 3 cones. Uh-huh. And then now we only have 2.
Well, this is the
only
IntelSat
has
33E.
2.
It's not a big deal for us. We have our own satellites, but this was a Euro-African satellite.
This is just interestingly, I was just watching a documentary about Boeing and when they merged with McDonnell Douglas, which had a history of failures. We had like the DC-10. Remember, all these planes were like blowing up. So they, grounding themselves, like just utter failures where people were dying. So suddenly Boeing, a corporation that was impeccable in its history, was now partnered up with this horrible company. And what happened is McDonnell Douglas, through its leadership at Boeing, they wound up splitting up the operation. So let's say you had an aircraft. That aircraft that was being built would have been built in one location by everyone who knew precisely what their job was. When McDonnell Douglas took over, let's say now the fuselage is being manufactured here and the engine components
didn't
are
know the
being,
history of what you were working on.
so what happened is you lose this cohesion and nobody quite knows what they're doing. And so I believe, because we know now we have doors blowing off of Boeing planes, right, where they found
Quality
they
control,
found right, their quality control. So it's completely separate from the manufacture of these things. And I have little doubt now after seeing this that it's probably a malfunction due to the shoddy workmanship
Of Boeing? Even though it's a completely probably different division that's doing
Nick,
satellite.
and how long has the IntelSat been up there? That's a very old
How old is the
satellite
IntelSat
company. They've been there a
33E?
long
So
time.
let's see if it was during the time that McDonnell Douglas took over.
Yeah, look
Because
at
I'm curious about
the
that,
33E
actually.
satellite. Let's see what its story
Let's
is.
see. 33E.
Yeah, IntelSat 33E. They're not sure why it broke apart. The hypothesis is that it was an explosion of the propulsion system, but it could have been hit. Oh, here it is. IntelSat 33E was launched in August of 2016.
There you go. Absolutely McDonnell Douglas then. Yep. Under Boeing, but like I said, the leadership from a corporation that was really terrible. And the other thing is that when they took over, they changed the tone of the workforce. So Boeing, his whole thing was, if you don't tell me when you see a problem, that's worse than anything. Don't yes man me. Just tell me if there's a problem, because they wanted to fix that. And that's why Boeing had such a stellar record of safety.
They were the best. It used to be-
McDonnell Douglas, though, their culture was the opposite. You hide, you obscure, you don't create problems where there don't need to be any. And so this is where we have a loss of
Huge
quality
different
control.
Culture. Interesting. Yeah. Does it go down to the level of like looking at the sensibilities of the management, the top management?
Absolutely. Yes,
Like the
100%. Yeah,
CEO?
work culture is everything.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember it used to be Boeing had a sterling reputation, and
Yes.
a lot of pilots would say about traveling around the world, they said, if it's not Boeing, I'm not going.
Right. Yeah, because their reputation was impeccable, really, truly stellar.
pilots.
Stellar, to use a good word. I don't understand why in history Boeing chose to go in the
With Donald
direction
Douglas?
of including, yes.
Maybe it was a forced government merger.
Maybe.
Because they
Maybe.
both have huge military contracts. And
So they'll blame some interstellar object for their failing.
yeah. So this defunct satellite was the second of IntelSat's next generation broadband satellites, Epic NGs. They provide higher throughput and efficiency for telecom. They're not looking too good. Their first one in this series suffered a major failure in 2019. Maybe their Boeing is now looking not good.
Yeah, like why are they deliberately
years after
tanking
launch?
Boeing? That's what I want to say. And why isn't Boeing like original leadership? I don't
Yeah.
know what's happened to Boeing.
Well, I wonder if it isn't some kind of result of the secrecy culture and how easy it would be to do espionage if you had very deep roots in your ability to infiltrate the organization, because the very fragmentary nature of a military contractor is going to make it difficult to prevent a deep plant from doing something nefarious at an opportune moment.
Well, it's harder to have collisions up there in geosynchronous orbit. That's because it's so much bigger.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Imagine two boats on the
Right.
ocean.
You see how
Like-
big the oceans are? That's on the surface of the planet. Can you imagine just the low Earth orbit is much bigger than the oceans
exponentially
above us. The area above us is, you go up a couple 100 miles, or go up 100 miles, you're in space. And it's already much faster than all the oceans of the Earth combined.
I have a question about the physics of the satellite breaking up. I'm curious to know if you guys know this answer. I don't know it. So if it breaks into many parts, as it has, will it stay in orbit with itself, or will these parts sort of disperse?
Both. There is a momentum from the craft itself, which was probably traveling at some excess of 15,000 miles an hour, because the 17,000 is kind of the minimum speed you go for certain orbits around the Earth.
Yeah, the fragments get kicked out of a stable orbit.
But
Right.
then if there's some kind of an explosion that creates force that directs parts in other directions, that is added to the momentum that it already has. So the parts will separate in the direction of the force and continue in the momentum that they've been going.
Okay. Right, because inertia, right, unless something interrupts that. But they'll stay together. So let's say, does mass affect
To
it
the
though?
degree that the inertia that they already had is preserved, they'll stay together.
But would mass affect it? So let's say I have like a little baby piece that breaks off compared to like a huge massive chunk. Like would they, considering all of that, would the mass affect how closely they remain together?
That's a physics problem. So you just imagine.
Nick,
equal
where
and
are you?
opposite,
Well, there's
you
no
have a
air up
force.
there, so
We
you
need
don't have
Nick.
that. It used to be that the size of the object would control the speed at which it fell apart, but I would say the kinetic energy at the
That it would
moment
keep
of
them?
impact
Oh.
would cause, think of a pool break
Right.
without air and without gravity,
Right.
a three-dimensional pool break.
It might keep together then.
Some
right?
parts might. The important thing to remember is that we need to clean up the space junk. There's going to be a lot of space junk up there.
Yeah, and we're going to prevent ourselves from getting off the planet because we'll have too many obstacles in the way.
Did you ever hear the B-52 song Channel Z? And it's about that. They talk about space junk, ozone holes, better put up my umbrella. We need big umbrellas. The space junk's gonna be falling.
Yes, no, I haven't heard about that, but that's a good idea. There's over 10,000 of these satellites zooming around our planet right now. That's a lot, you know. And the debris, if one of them hits the other, they have a cascade effect that could cause them to break into thousands of pieces.
All right, so the
very shortly.
geostationary equatorial orbit
Yes.
is approximately 35,786 kilometers, 22,236 miles above the mean sea level. So that's how high up we're talking about this problem. 22,236.
Yeah, that's geosynchronous orbit. Big space out there, but easy to hit if they're not moving much. And most of the big satellites or comm satellites out there are lumbering giants. They don't move very fast. That's because they're handling a lot of communications. Now, the reason why Starlink is in a low Earth orbit and not in a high geosynchronous orbit, and has thousands and thousands of satellites instead of 3, is because in low Earth orbit, you have very low latency delay issues.
Oh, Bobby just showed us, look where the fragments are. So they actually dispersed quite a bit.
All right.
The Space Force is tracking fragments.
Wow. Bobby coming through.
What is
So what does that tell you?
Well, I was just thinking, like, let's say we could repair it, but you had to, like, send a team up to repair it. I'm thinking it'd be pretty difficult at this point.
Piece together 20 pieces of the space
big
junk?
dragnet.
yeah, that's right. One giant net, like a big fishing net.
You know what the Russians were doing? They were melting them down. They just take the old ones and melt them down.
This little chart that you sent is really interesting from Space Flux that you see 2 numbers which represent objects that are being tracked in our low Earth orbit, and then the fragments being mapped with respect to those known space objects. That's pretty interesting.
So can they predict when it might actually, one of these fragments might hit something else? See, that's the important thing, too, is the collision courses. A lot of these satellites are vulnerable to meteorites and fragments of other satellites. So how do we keep them safe? Or can we? There's much we can do about it. They're traveling at thousands of miles an hour.
These geosynchronous orbits are very prized spaces above the Earth. Only few satellites are allowed to be in that region because if they get too close, they interfere with each other. But now that you have these fragments flying around at exactly that distance away, yes, it's going to disrupt that whole area.
But keep in mind that this is a vast
we're
space.
going to be flying blind.
Yeah, remember, this is many times bigger than our oceans.
Bobby's saying that the geosynchronous orbit is going to be interrupted. Like the IntelSat information is going to be interrupted because both of the obstacles that are now in the path and because of the lack of the entity that was formerly part of the network of information.
Yeah, broke its network. Yeah, geosynchronous probably needs to be protected, and there'll probably be some kind of military budget from the Space Force to protect the satellites, just like we protect ships in the ocean.
Yeah.
Similar paradigm.
Yeah, well, there are legal organizations that are in charge of the dominion of space and giving people licenses up there.
But is there a Coast Guard?
There's a Space Force.
Yeah, I think the Space Force is the first Space Guard.
The Space Farce. I like that.
That sounds like a movie I might have seen.
Space Farce.
Space Farce.
Well, there used to be
Spaceballs.
No, there
was
before they created the official military entity called the Space Force. There was a Steve Carroll comedy called Space Force. That was
that was hilarious.
It was
you saw that
hilarious.
one? Yeah, I saw
of course.
It too. Steve Carroll's a hoot. Head of that
Steve
group.
Carell, he's great.
Oh, hey, it's time for a break.
Okay, let's go for a break.
Commercial.
Go team.
Santa Cruz Voice is joining with Think Local First and Community TV for a Listen Local First celebration of our new studio, Thursday the 24th from 5 to 7. Come meet, mix, and mingle as we stream live radio and TV, enjoy eats and treats, and make lots of new friends. It's our Listen Local First open house, Thursday the 24th from 5 to 7 at 325 Soquel Avenue. Listen Local First on SantaCruzVoice.com.
When you need help managing your estate, call on the Angel.
Hello, I am attorney Angel Hess, and I am ready to help. Whether you need a will or a trust, a guardianship or a conservatorship, or if you are managing the financial affairs of a loved one, I will help you with over 7 years' experience working in estate planning and probate fields.
When you need help, call on the Angel, attorney Angel L. Hess at SantaCruzLegal.net.
The Hook is California's first ever cannabis outlet. 100% locally owned and operated, we're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. We believe that everyone should have access to fairly priced cannabis, so we work hard to get it to you for 30 to 50% less than the other guys. If you're 21 or older with a valid ID, visit us in Capitola or in Watsonville today. We're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. Check out our website, hookoutlet.com, for deals and stay groovy.
You need a clean, pleasant space to conduct business, but you don't want the burden of a long, expensive lease. Your solution is Satellite Co-working and Digital Media Studio on Soquel Avenue. Satellite offers private offices, meeting and conference rooms, even co-working by the hour, day, week, or month. Schedule a tour at satellitecoworking.com. Mention Santa Cruz Voice for 20% off your first reservation.
Hi, folks. How many of you out there love to garden? Wouldn't it be nice to grow some of your own food? Or maybe a flower garden would brighten your day. All you need is the Knox Garden Box, a heavily constructed, portable, elevated garden on legs that can virtually change the way you've gardened in the past. The Knox Garden Box can be set up anywhere. Yes, you can place it right on concrete at knoxgardenbox.com. That's Knox, gardenbox.com.
Okay, folks, we's back.
Oh, team.
Come back.
We always know what we want to talk about next, don't we?
At the mic.
We got Saudi Arabia's mega city is in the news. A nanoparticle infusion therapy that breaks down plaque in arteries made it this week. That's kind of interesting medical story. That's right up Bobby's alley.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
Have you heard about that?
That one's very interesting for sure.
Nanoparticle infusion therapy. Can you explain that at all to the audience?
Well, the problem is these plaques, these sticky plaques, they're used to like as a Band-Aid to seal up the vessel walls so that it doesn't break open.
Yeah.
And now they've figured out a way to remove these plaques so that you don't have an occlusion or a sealing up of those vessels where you have a stroke, right?
Uh-huh.
And so this is very interesting because, in fact, I was talking to Michael McAvoy about this problem because there's fibrin being generated in a lot of people now from different therapies. And we were talking about how to remove these fibrin things and these occlusions. And it looks like, well, they found something that can do this with these nanoparticles, which break up these plaques into tiny little pieces and then gets rid of them. Michael was saying, oh, yeah, I mentioned to him, well, what about vitamin K2? What about serrapeptase, bromelain, all these other protease enzymes that break up these plaques? And he said none of them worked. And the only thing that worked for him was B3, niacin, and nicotinamide, niacin.
Gee, it sounds like an additive for my diesel generator fuel. Breaking
niacin?
up the pieces. No, I mean breaking up the plaque. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a super slick oil or something.
Yeah. Well, why is it nano? Is it intelligent in the way it does it over just a chemical?
Well, because normally you have these like macrophages or immune cells, but they're quite large particles. So these nanoparticles actually block some of these immune properties of these immune cells, which are much larger than the nanoparticle itself. It's used to blocking the CD47 blocking nanoparticles. So the CD47 is part of the immune system that's secreted. So anyway, it's able to block that. So that allows the breakup of these calcification in the arteries.
Right. Yeah, that could really be important, especially since you don't have a lot of warning signs for some of these when they come up.
There is these ultrasound. You can actually take ultrasound and move it and map out these arteries, and you can see where the arteries have these occlusions or narrowing of the artery.
Oh, that's very cool. Wow.
Yeah. I think MRIs could do it too, but they're very expensive. I think the ultrasound is less expensive to find out.
See, part of the problem of atherosclerosis is that dead cells in the vascular tissue aren't properly cleared away by immune cells, creating lesions in the arteries, which produce a molecule called CD47, which presents a don't eat me signal to the immune cells. Previous studies have shown that blocking CD47 allows immune cells to clear out dead cells once again. But unfortunately, they also tend to attack red blood cells, in the process leading to anemia as a side effect. Oh, dear. Okay.
Yeah, so they targeted it toward two types of immune cells that we call monocytes and macrophages. And those things are associated with inflammation in the plaques, rather than it having also affect red blood cells negatively.
Was just done in
so
humans?
it had no damage to these other blood cells, and they actually used PET scans, by the way.
That's right. They use pigs for these, right?
No, PET scans. Like you have CAT scans. So PET, PET scan is
positron emission tests. Yeah.
Yes.
They measure the effects of the therapy on the pig's arteries.
Positron emission tomography.
Yeah.
Reduced inflammation.
So they're able to measure the effects of the therapy on the pig arteries that way. We were talking about which imaging they used. Was it MRI? But it wasn't. It was a PET scan. Yes.
If you can avoid the PET scan, that's even better. That's why I always opt for an MRI instead of a PET scan.
I don't think I've ever had a PET scan, actually, Bobby. It's always been like an MRI or CT.
Whenever you have traumatic brain injury or something, they always put you up for a PET scan first, but I opted not to. And
they gave me, I had a traumatic brain injury in 2006, and they gave me an MRI, and I think they gave me a CT scan, a CAT scan, but I don't believe they gave me the PET scan. Not sure.
PET scans, they usually use a sugar dye that goes through your bloodstream, and then they can pick it up.
Right. And I know CAT scan uses it's a form of radiation, but it's excreted very quickly. It's a contrasting liquid that you drink.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're detecting what's called a positron emission or proton emission.
Well, fascinating area. You were talking about a new approach to weight loss that I thought was interesting, about some kind of new way of modifying your microbiome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That was great.
The big thing is trying to change your microbiome in your gut.
The reason why you want to do that?
The problem is the American diet is, first of all, what's very interesting is there are hardly any babies in the United States that are born naturally with Lactobacillus rhodori. Lactobacillus rhodori is essential for programming your immune system when you're born, and it's usually given through the vaginal canal when you're born from your mother. And it turns out very small percentage of women in the United States today have Lactobacillus rhodori in their bodies. And so they're not transferring this immune property to their offspring.
Is that because it's been killed by antibiotics?
Yes, it is. Antibiotics is probably the one main thing that's been doing this, because when you take an antibiotic, at a minimum, it takes you 2 years to regrow what was stored in your body, especially in the appendix. And so if you take an antibiotic, it just like nukes the appendix. And those things actually came from your mother before you were born and transferred that way. So once you've taken an antibiotic, you will never be able to regrow some of those things.
You reminded me, Bobby, when you were talking about babies who are born today, and I was thinking about, when they started realizing how important it was to inoculate a baby with its mother's bacteria, because babies who were born by C-section, they never had the opportunity of getting any vaginal bacteria from their mothers, which was critical. And so today they actually, and what would happen, to go back there, what would happen before we were aware of the importance of our bacterial, our maternal bacterial origins, we would be inoculated. The doctors, the nurses who touched this newborn baby, the baby was getting inoculated with their bacteria, because this happens very quickly at the skin surface. And then if a mother isn't breastfeeding on top of that, I am a subject of this. I am the result of this, because they just didn't know any better. So I was a C-section baby who was then formula fed. And I have an autoimmune disease. I have Crohn's disease, which is a digestive disease. It's really fascinating. And even today, so now today they're aware of this for C-section babies. But like you say, if most of us are missing a critical bacteria, such as the rhodori, I guess it's still good, but they'll take a baby now who's born by C-section and actually rub the baby in the mother's fluids. Right. The mucosal fluids and things like that. And they're so careful. They wear gloves. Everything is sterilized, because they don't want the baby to have any influence from the other staff that's just in the room. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, but have they tested the fluid and make sure that it has all of these
elements? Has the rhodori. No, but maybe, it brings up an interesting thought that while we're giving prenatal vitamins to women, that we should also be considering their bacterial health as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a whole big question about how much nature and how much intervention is necessary at birth for the long-term health of the baby. That would be a really good conversation for people to be having.
It never sat well that we give birth in infectious, diseased hospitals where people are dying and sick, where we're giving birth to beautiful new.
We once were the video crew for a conference that was dedicated to natural birth people, everything from doulas to midwives to circumcision nurses to people from native tribes talking about birthing practices and conception practices and natural conception and things. And in this conference, I want to say very important intellectual whose name I'm not thinking of now, Childers. Childers, yeah. He was speaking and he said that C-sections were developed during the war, I think it might have been World War II, as an emergency procedure for a tiny percentage of mothers that were having some kind of blockage issue to save the life of the mother. And at most, it was never necessary for more than like 5 to 10% of the births, and that natural birth was overwhelmingly practiced. And the fact that hospitals needed to have a financial support, they started turning their resources over to the C-section because they could bill for it. And it became so important in the financial structure of the hospitals that they started recommending it over natural birth. So now the whole idea that women are scheduling their birth and all that because of their ability to have a C-section or to induce is a result of basically the payment program, and it may or may not be better for the mother or the baby.
Yeah, and the C-section rates in our country today are abysmal. 1 out of every 4, so 25%. And in some states like Pennsylvania, it's actually 1 out of every 3 children will be born to C-section.
A lot of that is the mothers opting for it because they want to schedule their birth.
But they think mothers have been conditioned to believe that childbirth is a grave medical diagnosis.
Can die.
It's a condition. That's right.
Women are scared to have babies.
They're scared, and they think that having invasive surgery where you're cutting through major layers of fat tissue, where you have to recover for weeks after you've just given birth to your beautiful baby, that's somehow easier and safer. And we're talking about also infectious, having wound healing right at this point, and infection, the rates of infection, all of these things that if we just promoted natural childbirth would be a non-issue. And I'm passionate.
That was Santa Cruz's big thing with the doulas and the whole doula movement.
Yeah, Santa Cruz was the home of the home birth and the midwife.
Nick Herbert's wife, Betsy, she was the primary reason why I gave birth at home, why I had a home birth to our second daughter, Angelina.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I had a hospital birth. It was nice. It was easy, but it wasn't what I wanted. I thought it was insane that I was there. They wanted me there for 2 days. I said, I'm going home. I want to go home. I'm healthy and I'm safe and my baby's healthy and we just want to go home. But yeah, if it weren't for Betsy and Betsy was one of the pioneers in this community.
Kate Bolin, who was the...
Yes, Kate Bolin, yes.
Yeah,
he started the home birth.
Yeah, they were midwives,
so you
doulas.
Did it at home? Did you have a doula at home when you gave birth?
No. My husband had been a nurse. He was a nursing student and worked in an ER.
I see. So he had some training.
Yeah, and I had regular obstetrics appointments in Philadelphia. But ultimately, we birthed at home. It was a harrowing and very unique experience and challenging and totally worthwhile. I just wish, and it's starting to come along. This is 22 years ago that I gave birth to Angelina at home. So things have come a long way.
Didn't you feel it was important to actually give birth rather than have a C-section for your kids?
Yeah, yes. Not only that, for me, when I started reading books about what drugs do, so when a woman is getting painkillers as she's going into labor, what that actually does to the baby, that was horrifying to me. I thought my body creates natural endorphins. I'm healthy. And there's no way I'm going to drug my baby from the moment my baby is being born. I just thought that was cruel. And
that happens in a C-section birth?
When you
use a lot of drugs, yeah.
When you get an epidural, let's say, even a woman having a natural birth who wants an epidural, that baby comes out high. The baby is now high for the first time as a brand new baby. It's just... My underarms are starting to get a little sweaty because I'm getting, it just boils me.
And what about the experience of not going through the birth canal? Do you think that's significant in terms of
C-section babies tend to be more peaceful. We don't have to have the trauma of childbirth. We are literally lifted out. Our heads aren't squashed and crushed. We have these beautiful little round heads, and so in terms of non-violence for baby, C-section may be better. However, it's also...
As long as you don't mind the drugs.
You want a natural childbirth for your kids.
Yeah, if it could be... Well, even for Julia, even though Julia was born in a hospital, I opted to have a natural birth. I did not want drugs.
You didn't do any...
No, my body felt it. My body dealt with it.
Did you scream and stuff too?
Did you scream? So tell me. As a man, I need to know, woman, did you scream in childbirth?
Yeah, they let you
I don't
do
think
that?
it was... Well, they let you. This isn't like... This isn't like 19...
You're in a hospital, you better be quiet. It's like the library.
Yeah, it's not like 1940s.
No,
we're talking about when I gave birth.
When you gave birth, that was more like the turn of the
2000.
century.
Yeah, so in the 2000s, Julia was born in 99, Angelina in 02. And even then, I had to sign a waiver from my doctor, my obstetrician, when he found out that I was going to give birth at home without him. He wrote on a piece of note paper a whole thing excusing his liability from anything that was going to happen to my baby. It was a full-on threat to me. The entire intention, aside from excusing his own liability, was to scare me out of having my own autonomy. And that was, you're vulnerable. You're so vulnerable. You're the most vulnerable you can ever be when you're pregnant. You're not yourself because you're considering like, I'm bringing this life into the world and I'm responsible for this. And you just want everything to be perfect and you don't want anything to happen to baby. Talk about having to have courage. It takes courage for women to be able to birth at home or in a way that they want to, in a way where you just want control, autonomy, support. Nurturing. Yes.
You want people to hear what you say and help you.
You don't want to pass on all of that stress, those stress hormones to your baby. You want things to be peaceful. That's right. You want loving, nurturing, caring environment where people respect you. And hopefully you've grown up in a world that promotes education, right? Where we all have our information available to us, no matter who we are or where we are. We're sort of coming to that, I think.
I think
technology is really helping things along.
I just feel optimistic that the arc of intelligence is positive. We're going to keep growing smarter and better and wiser as we include more and more information.
Keep going.
The quote, let's see, the arc of the moral universe is long. Is that the one you're thinking of?
I think so. It's Martin Luther King.
Yes, but it bends towards justice.
That's what it is. Yes.
Nice bend.
The arc of the moral universe is long.
We only got a few minutes left. Bobby?
Yeah, so I just wanted to finish up. There is a book out by Dr. William Davis. It's called The Super Gut. And what it does is in 1 month, you can reprogram your microbiome by just making yogurt yourself. So I bought one of these yogurt makers. It was only like $65 and I've got it in the kitchen and I'm going to start it. And the difference between this Rotary and the one that you can get Rotary yogurt and Rotary kefir in the grocery store, but this is about 2,000% higher dosages of these microbes, the Lactobacillia rotari, than the one you get in the store if you make it yourself. And the key is that you incubate the Lactobacillia rotari for 36 hours as opposed to all the store-bought stuff. They only do it for 4 hours to make their yogurt. This one, you incubate it at 98.6 degrees or 99 degrees for 36 hours. And then you got this super batch of yogurt and you just take a half a cup every morning and you can completely change your microbiome in your gut.
And the name of the book is Super Gut, a 4-week plan to reprogram your microbiome, restore health, and lose weight. Okay, I got that. Super Gut, William Davis, MD. And you recommend this book, Bobby, 4-week plan.
And watch the Dr. Berg video on it. It's your gut is depressing you.
Your
All right,
Fix
so
your
in the
gut
last
with one
minute
micro.
here, I wanted.
Okay, very good. Okay, in a final minute, we have a little gathering for Santa Cruz Voice.
We have Rob Bresney has given us an election prayer that Gabby found, and I want to read it real quick.
Okay, our gathering
here.
is Thursday, 5 to 7. Come join us.
Oh, did you say that?
Yeah, I just did.
Santa Cruz Voice,
Yes.
5 to 7 Thursday. Meanwhile, consider this election prayer. Divine, unruly intelligence alive in us like ever-sprouting seeds. Relentless reawakener of rigorous, vigorous sentience. Compassionately ruthless destroyer of suffering. Tricky teacher of surprising reality. Fill us with almost more splendor than we can hold. Shake loose our deepest, best choices. Swoop and swoon us into righteous amazement. Inspire the shocking triumph of wild goodness. Thank you, Rob Bresney.
Wild goodness. Inspire. Thank you, Santa Cruz.
Thanks, Santa Cruz.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening. Till next week.